Have you ever wanted to find things that are like the things you love? In this video, I'm going to show you a tool that can do just that. It's called ThisIsLike, and when you type something into ThisIsLike, it will show you what else is like that. So for example, here, if I type in the name of a writer I like, Franz Kafka, then it's going to show me the other writers that are like that. On top of that, I can also type in and ask it to show me something in a different domain. So for example, if I'm interested even in a club like Berghain, which is a known techno club from Berlin, but in Tokyo, so I want to find something like that club but in another city, then ThisIsLike will search all over the human knowledge and the internet and show me what is like that in Tokyo. So that can be really good for traveling, discovering new ideas, knowledge, writers, film directors, anything you want. And on top of that, every result that you generate inside ThisIsLike is visualized inside InfraNodus knowledge graph. InfraNodus is another app that I created. So that gradually, as you're doing more and more searches, you can actually create a map of your knowledge where you will be able to see how the different things that you like connected to each other. So for example, here I have some places that I was interested in. Here I was looking for fonts that are similar for my apps and projects. Here are the musicians I like. So you see, gradually you're building the graph of the things that you like, and you can build it in different graphs or in the same graph, and then you can connect this graph through the InfraNodus API to your favorite AI or N8N workflow, so that you can integrate this knowledge as a recommendation system in your other workflows. So in this video, I'm going to show you how ThisIsLike works, how I built it also using the different AI tools, and how I integrated it with InfraNodus so that you can connect it to your own user account in InfraNodus and build your knowledge graphs using this very engaging way of discovering and searching for new information. So keep watching if you're interested to learn how it works, and also please subscribe to this channel to support us. So first of all, ThisIsLike. You can find it at thisislike.app. I will provide a link in this video above and also in the description to this video. When you come to the front page, the thing that you can start with is just to type in something that you already like, or use one of the searches here. For instance, I want to see what is like Microsoft Surface computer. I want something that's portable, that has touchscreen, so that can be used as a recommendation system for shopping as well, right? And so it shows me that, okay, Microsoft Surface is like Apple iPad, Samsung Galaxy Tab, HP Spectra, also Lenovo Yoga. So if I think that, okay, this is an interesting result, I can click on Lenovo Yoga and then see what are the other laptops that are like that. So you can really browse this associative web of knowledge using the stuff that you find and discover the interesting niches and domains in more and more detail. And when you see something you like, for instance, here I have search results that I think are quite interesting and I would like to save them, maybe except for Dell, so I can remove Dell from this list. I can also maybe keep the rest here. Then I can save it to the graph here, and here I click on Save and Share Results, and what's going to happen is that it's going to save it to my InfraNodus graph, which is here. So when I reload it, you will see that now Microsoft Surface appeared here, or actually it was Lenovo Yoga computer here, with all the connections that I created, right? And then if I want, I can make it publicly available also, and then somebody else can use this link to open exactly these same search results, and I can share it with my friends, for example, if I want them to discover things that I find interesting that are like the laptop that I like, for instance, in this case, right? Another very interesting use case is that you can use ThisIsLike to also find things that are like each other but in different domains. So for instance, let's say I'm interested in James Blake, but in literature, right? So James Blake is a well-known musician, but I want someone like that in literature. So that's also a very interesting way of searching for the stuff that are like the stuff you like, but in different domains. If you like his music, what would you like in literature, for instance? So you type this in, and then you see it shows you some interesting connections. Sometimes it's just going to be because maybe they have a similar surname, but sometimes also it's going to be some books or some other cultural artifacts that have the same sort of feeling or emotion that the musician that you're searching for. So I find this is also like a very interesting way to find things that are like each other. So for example, here, if I find something interesting and I don't want to save the whole search result, but just one thing, then for instance, I can save it here. Let's say I want to save here. So you see here it's a book, and James Blake and the book explore deep emotional themes reflecting contemporary literary narratives. So that's interesting. I'm going to save it to the graph, and then it saves it to the graph that I have specified here, testing. And then you will see that now when I go back to this graph inside InfraNodus, I will have James Blake, and it's connected to the stuff that I just added here. So that's quite interesting as well, because it allows me to find and to save things that are related to my interests. Now I also want to show you something that you can actually do yourself if you would like to save all of this data into your own InfraNodus account. So by default, if you open it in a private mode, you will actually not be able to save stuff. So what you need to do is just to go to the settings here and then provide your InfraNodus API key. And then provide the name of the graph where you want to be saving things. And you can be saving stuff into different graphs. So once you provide this API key, which you can get in InfraNodus in the API section here, right? So once you provide this key, you can actually then specify different graph names that you would like to be using. So for example, I have another one here that is called equipment, where I'm just searching for equipment. So now if I decide to search for camping equipment, for instance, I'm interested in the hammocks called Draumer hammock. All right, so I'm going to search for the other camping items that are similar to Draumer hammock. And if I find something I like, I can save it into the graph. So for example, here, this treetop hammock, Hennessy hammock, and so on. And it's all going to be saved into the graph that I selected here. So you can also build different graphs depending on what you're interested in. Then if I open this graph here, you will see that I have this Draumer hammock, and then have the connections to the different hammocks that I found here. So this is actually exactly what I saved right now. You see Draumer hammock, and then treetop hammock and Hennessy hammock. And by the way, inside InfraNodus, I already have the descriptions of the connections. And now, if I want, I can connect this knowledge graph to any AI system through a tool like NA10, for instance, and then it's going to be used by the LLM as a recommendation system to help me find interesting stuff. I have another video that I will link to just above, where I explain how to use these knowledge graphs as your reasoning experts in your LLM workflow. So you can actually create the graph just by searching stuff in a very fun way, and then once you have the knowledge graph ready, maybe you want to make some additional manipulations here, and then you can expose it to the outside. You can even make it public so that other people can use your recommendations in their LLM workflows. So that's really amazing. It's kind of like you're searching stuff, then you build a graph, and then you can make this knowledge and this associative web of ideas available to yourself or to others or even to AI. So that's pretty interesting. Now, finally, I also promised to tell you how I actually built this tool. So originally, ThisIsLike is something that I created in 2010, but it had a problem that it was very hard to fill it up with knowledge. So now with the different tools that we have available, it's quite much easier. And so I decided to kind of revive the project. And what I did first, I went to V0 from Vercel, and I started building it here. So I have here, ThisIsLike.app. I think it will load the chat. I think I went through 100 iterations here. So that probably took like 10 hours maybe to just bring it to the shape that you see right now here. So kind of like the main design, the logic and so on. But then at some point I got stuck because Vercel, the longer the context gets, the harder it is to actually develop stuff. And I have another video that I'm going to link to also just above, where I explain how to actually develop apps better in that way. But for example, at this point I decided, okay, I'm just going to switch to Claude Code. So I went to Claude Code, which I have, I think, here. And then basically I started using Claude Code on this repo just to develop it further. And the way to run it, I open it in my favorite IDE. In this case, it's Windsurf. You can also use Cursor or VS Code. And then you just open new terminal here. So you will open the terminal, then you install Claude. If you have it installed, you just type in Claude, and then you just give it instructions. And Claude is much better in programming your existing repo with the stuff that you ask it to do. And then you can run it locally, and you have much faster iterations because you can just ask Claude to run it on your own computer, and then you can quickly go into the browser and check if it works well, instead of waiting for Vercel to complete the task and also waiting it to correct the mistake. So this is my workflow. First V0 for design, then Claude for some more complex logics, and then of course I also program it manually to make sure that it works well. But that kind of helps to get started, especially with an old project like this that I always felt like was very hard to make, but actually it became much easier once I had this AI tools available to me, because then you can just build it very quickly. And then I connected it also to the InfraNodus API, so that means that anyone can provide their InfraNodus API key and then save the search results as graphs. And also when you have a shared search result, it actually loads from InfraNodus. So it's stored inside InfraNodus. InfraNodus is also used as a database, like a graph database in this case, right? And then it shows you all the connections of this item to the stuff that you like. And by the way, you can even filter by the different graphs you have. So for example, if I want to see if there is anything like Franz Kafka in equipment, no, because obviously I wouldn't save it into the equipment graph. But in the testing graph, I have it here. But then also what's cool is that I can see in all the possible graphs. So if I save the connections to Franz Kafka in all the different graphs inside InfraNodus, you can actually have this search all graphs feature here. And then if you type in Kafka, you'll actually see everything that Franz Kafka is connected to across all your graphs. So it's pretty cool because it allows you to gradually accumulate associative web of knowledge and then discover new things through the connections between them. The more you build, the more interesting connections you will have. Because, for example, maybe you will be interested in Vladimir Nabokov, and then you will click on Vladimir Nabokov, and then you will discover that there is a writer like Kurt Vonnegut that is maybe not connected to Franz Kafka, but he's connected to Franz Kafka through Vladimir Nabokov. So that becomes a really nice way of exploring ideas in this associative way. And then, of course, from here, you can discover it further and so on. So I find it pretty interesting, and I recommend you to try using it and to save stuff into the different graphs, and then to use InfraNodus to actually search through all your associative web of knowledge and to discover new connections like this. So I hope you find it interesting. Try out this tool at ThisIsLike.app, and if you need an InfraNodus account, you can get it at infranodus.com. And let me know your comments, feedback, or ideas for how this app could be developed further. And also if you have any questions about building something like this, I will be happy to hear from you. Thank you.